Hey, brothers and sisters. My name is John. I'm the pastor of First United Methodist Church here in Mountain City and Trade United Methodist Church in Trade, Tennessee. Well, welcome to our Wednesday Ephphatha Bible study for Wednesday, the 27th of January. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Mountain City, but according to the weatherman, that's not going to last. We've had snow off and on for a couple of months now, and so I think we're going to get some more tonight, but that's okay. We'll be all right. All right, well, we are continuing on in Exodus. We're in Exodus chapter 23, and we've moved through the Ten Commandments, but now we're going on to some more of the what we call the Law of Moses. The law given to Moses by God for the instruction and formation and the regulation of the life together for the people. I want to share with you a mug today. The mug of the day is a rather simple one. It is a plain white mug with a Canadian flag on it. And I always put notes in my mugs about when I got them, because I was looking at thinking, oh, I got this on our Niagara Falls trip. And no, I didn't. I got this in Whitehorse, British Columbia, on our way back through from Alaska in 2009. That was our first Alaskan mission trip. And so I flew up with the team and rode back in the trusty Bessie Blue, the PT Cruiser that Gail still has. And she and Allie and I rode in the PT Cruiser from Alaska back home. And it was quite the adventure. Quite the adventure. But so we got this in British Columbia. Good reminders. That was a good trip. Well, we'll go ahead and get started with our study itself. Like I said, we're in Exodus chapter 23. You shall not spread a false report. You shall not join hands with the wicked to act as malicious witnesses. You shall not follow a majority in wrongdoing. When you bear witness in a lawsuit, you shall not side with a majority so as to prevent justice. Nor shall you be partial to the poor in a lawsuit. When you come upon your enemy's ox or donkey going astray, you shall bring it back. When you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, you would hold up verse 5. When you see the donkey of one who hates you lying under its burden, and you would hold back from setting it free, you must help to set it free. Okay, so we're going to pause just for a second there. So God is giving these regulations on how to live together in community, how to regulate our lives together. The Bible uses the term enemy here, and that's not wrong, but we all know from living in communities of various kinds that we don't always get along with everybody. Some people just rub your fur the wrong way. Just differences in personality or worldview or whatever. We can't like and get along with everybody, and we just gotta deal with that. But as part of the members of the community, we have obligations in how we need to deal with them and relate to them. So here in the very beginning of the people of God as a nation, these are kind of the foundational documents, foundational moments for the nation of Israel. God is telling them that we can't give into our base impulses, our habits of wanting to get even or take advantage or things like that. I mean, if there was somebody who just wasn't very nice to you, didn't like you at all, and you saw his pet donkey wandering down the road, you think, well, looks like so-and-so forgot to shut the gate. I'll just help myself and have another donkey. So God is telling us, no, it doesn't matter. You've got to do the right thing. The right thing is not dependent on how we've been treated or what we want to do. The right thing is the right thing. So taking back the wandering donkey or whatever, taking it back to its owner is the right thing to do. And, this isn't just talking about livestock. This is really a precept for everything. If you find a possession, if you find your enemy's billfold, you take it back to him. You don't just treat your friends nicely, even if you treat your enemies. Uh, those folks who may not even like you back, treat them nicely as well. And Sue has popped in, and Sue says, "Hello, everyone." Hello, Sue. I hope you're doing well and enjoying this pretty weather today. It is nice. Okay. Oh yes, and must help if the donkey is overburdened and has fallen down. You've got to help set it free. You guys may remember the commercials that the Mormons were running. It's been several years ago. Now I don't like the Mormons. They are not counted as Christian in our teachings. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Their commercial was really good, and it kind of bugged me that it was so good. You may have seen a guy riding his bicycle, like a trail bike, riding through the wilderness, and this Jeep comes by and splashes him with mud, and the guys in the Jeep laugh as they drive off. And the guy kind of cleans his splashes off and kind of grumps on, keeps on bicycling on, and then shortly thereafter, he comes across this same Jeep broke down on the side of the road. And he stops, and he takes a deep breath, and stops and goes over and tries to help him get the Jeep fixed. Most all of us would really want to say, nah, 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 and keep on going. But the commercial made a good point that we're called to help those who are in need, regardless of how they've treated us. And that's kind of exactly the precept that we're talking about here in verse 5, that it doesn't matter if the owner of the donkey or the person who's in trouble likes us or not. We're called to help other folks. And looking ahead to the New Testament, we talk about how our communion liturgy says that God proves his love for us in this, that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us. So Christ loved us first, and calls us to love others, even when they don't like us back, and that's okay. Okay. Verse 6. You shall not pervert the justice due to the poor in their lawsuits. Okay, so 6 and verse 3 and verse 6 are kind of the flip side of the same thing. Don't be partial to the poor, but don't deny the poor justice. And even in the ancient world, the golden rule applied. The one who has the gold makes the rules. That those who have power and wealth often have the resources to escape consequences for their actions or for their choices. And so we're called to not show partiality to the poor, but not pervert the justice due to the poor. So we're called to be impartial if we're in a judging situation or things like that. We're not to so I want to say pick one side over the other, but that's not quite right. Let me think about the best way to think about that, or to express that. 7. Keep far from a false charge, and do not kill the innocent or those in the right, for I will not acquit the guilty. You shall take no bribe, for a bribe blinds the officials and subverts the cause of those who are in the right. So God is very much, even here, calling for justice, calling for honest dealings, integrity, justice, accountability, all of these things that are kind of like the bedrock, the absolute foundations of a civil society. And brothers and sisters, those are things that we need to refocus on. We kind of lost our grip on civility and integrity and things like that. So don't pervert justice. Don't take bribes. Don't do things like that. And you shall not oppress a resident alien. You know the hearts of an alien, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. So they lived there for several hundred years, but that wasn't their land. They had a place elsewhere. 10. For 6 years you shall sow your land and gather in its yield. But in the 7th year you shall let it rest and lie fallow, so that the poor of your people may eat, and what they leave the wild animals may eat. You shall do the same with your vineyard and with your olive orchard. So allowing your fields to lie fallow 1 year in 6, 1 year in 7, sorry. And so that's good agricultural practices, as well as good teaching practices that the poor and the animals can glean what grows wild. And later on, talk about allowing the poor and the animals to get what's on the edges of the fields. So there has always been from the foundation of Israel, and we'll say by extension us as the people of God, there has always been a special care given for the poor and those who are in need. So God has always had a special soft spot, a special care and concern, a special provision for those who are poor. Okay, verse 12. For 6 days you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall rest, so that the ox and your donkey may have relief, and your homeborn slave and the resident alien may be refreshed. Be attentive to all that I have said to you. Do not invoke the names of other gods. Do not let them be heard on your lips. So this is the Sabbath regulation again. Doesn't worship is not mentioned, but the practical aspect of Sabbath is made clear that resting is necessary for everyone, and sometimes it's hard for us to turn it off and stop and take a break, and that's not good for anyone. So we're called to stop and take a break, and those who have, so that the animals can rest, and those who have servants or whatever can rest. So the resting and refreshment that God offers isn't just for the wealthy; it's for everyone. Okay. Verse 14. 3 times in the year you shall hold a festival for me. You shall observe the festival of unleavened bread, as I commanded you. You shall eat unleavened bread for 7 days at the appointed time in the month of Abib, for in it you came out of Egypt. No one shall appear before me empty-handed. That's kind of sticks in kind of oddly, doesn't it? 16. You shall observe the festival of harvest, of the first fruits of your labor, of what you sow in the field. You shall observe the festival of ingathering at the end of the year, when you gather in from the field the fruit of your labor. 3 times in the year all your males shall appear before the Lord God. So God is commanding people to hold festivals and to give back to God what God has given them. This is, remember, God doesn't need food. Our God is not dependent on earthly food like we understand it. But we are dependent on being reminded that God makes all this possible. That's kind of that's tied into the Sabbath commandment and others, that if we get out there and sweat in the fields and grow a good crop, we can legitimately take some pride and some satisfaction in that, because there is some skill and lots of labor that goes into it. But ultimately, it's not completely up to us. I mean, we can put the seed in the ground, but we can't make it sprout. So it's a reminder, this commandment is, to give God what is God's due. Give God the thanksgiving that God provides the harvest. And people are commanded to come and appear before God and worship and acknowledge that it's not completely due to our own actions, due to our own strength, that we have these things. And that's a good reminder to help us stay humble, that we're not all that we need God. Okay. 18. You shall not offer the blood of my sacrifice with anything leavened. or let the fat of my festival remain until the morning. Um, yeah, that's God is just saying that this is the way you're supposed to do that. And again, part of the teachings of the law of Moses, Ten Commandments, what have you, is that God expects the people of God to behave in certain ways. We're no longer beholden; we don't have to do this anymore. But the idea that part of our identity as God's people is that we are obedient is had to be deeply ingrained. That's part of what makes us God's people, the fact that we are obedient to God. So, and so these are some of the ways that the early Israelites were taught to be obedient. The choicest of the first fruits of your ground you shall bring into the house of the Lord your God. So not just any old harvest bits, but the choicest, the blue ribbon examples are the ones that you offer to God, because God has given His best for us, and we're expected to give our best in return. Let's see. You do not boil a kid in its mother's milk. So again, like the commandment about coming empty-handed, that just sort of it doesn't fit in with the flow of the conversation, really. And this to me and to others speaks of how the different strands of the Old Testament were woven together. The priestly strand, the royal strand, and the other peoples who were entrusted with the sacred teachings. All of those were kept, and then combined when the Old Testament was written down. And Bob saying hello again from Gray. Hope you're safe and well. Thank you, Bob. I hope you and yours are doing well as well. And we're doing good. I am very thankful for that. Okay. 20. I'm going to send an angel in front of you to guard you on the way and to bring you to the place that I have prepared. Be attentive to him and listen to his voice. Do not rebel against him, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Okay. But if you listen attentively to his voice and do all that I say, then I will be an enemy to your enemies and a foe to your foes. So God is sending angels, emissaries, those who are intended to guide the people, and we're to listen to them because they're speaking with God's voice. God has always provided leaders for God's people, and so I thank God that He's always guided us. Okay, and let's see, 23. When my angel goes in front of you and brings you to the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I blot them out, you shall not bow down to their gods or worship them or follow their practices, but you shall utterly demolish them and break their pillars in pieces. You shall worship the Lord your God, and I will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from among you. No one shall miscarry or be barren in your land, and I will fulfill the number of your days. I will send my terror in front of you, and will throw into confusion all the people against whom you shall come. And I will make all your enemies turn their backs to you. And I will send the pestilence in front of you, which shall drive out the Hivites, the Canaanites, and the Hittites from before you. I will not drive them out from before you. I will not drive them out from before you in 1 year, or the land will become desolate, and the wild animals will multiply against you. Little by little, I'll drive them out before you until you have increased and possess the lands. I will set your borders from the Red Sea to the Sea of the Philistines, the wilderness of the Euphrates, where I will hand over to you the inhabitants of the land, and you shall drive them out before you. You shall make no covenant with them and their gods. They shall not live in your land, or they will make you sin against me. For if you worship their gods, it will surely be a snare to you. So God has started talking about going into the promised land, the place that is set apart for the people of God. From the very beginning, the promise of God, the covenant with Abraham and others, has been the fact that they will be a people, be God's people, and that they will have a place, a people and a land together. And so God is saying that He will drive out all these other peoples, but not well in advance, so that everything would fall into ruin, but just in advance of the advance of the Israelites. And so God is promising to take care of the people and warning them that if they're going to drive these people out, they've got to do it. They've got to do it. They've got to do it thoroughly. If they don't, if the original inhabitants of the land are left, they will become a snare. Their practices, their worship will become a snare to the Israelites, and that is exactly what happened. We'll look later on at the taking possession of the Promised Land, and time and time again, when Israel wasn't obedient in doing what God said, the remnants of the peoples, the remnants of the practices, the worship of the other gods would creep in and would lead the people astray, and led to a lot of suffering and unnecessary death. So, when the people were disobedient, bad things happened. Gee, we just obey God, then things will work out okay. All right, so that's God laying down the law, so to speak, and talking about what is yet to come. So as we go on through, we'll be looking at some more of this. We may skip around a little bit, but that's okay. But God is giving God's law and teaching God's people what it means to be a separate people. They have separate practices. They have their own God. They're not to worship any other gods. They are a set apart people, and they're on their way to the set apart place that is made for them. So we'll carry on with that next week. Hope you guys continue to stay safe. Here in Johnson County, our numbers are looking a little better. Our active cases are down, and our positivity rate is down with the COVID. So we're making progress. Continue what we're doing. Let's keep on wearing our masks. Keep on keeping apart. For folks at First Church here in Mountain City, we'll be back in church on Sunday. We did have to take a 2-week out, 2-week online only, because we had an active case in church, but we didn't have any other cases. So what we're doing is working. So I thank God for that. And I want to encourage you all to continue doing your best practices to keep yourselves and others safe from COVID. So I pray that you have a blessed week, and we'll see you on Sunday. God bless.